So obviously, Arsenal is a meme, arguably the most memeable club in the entire world. The last few seasons, though, honestly, my mental strength was tested less when I was in therapy for depression. That's how difficult it's been. Now, there's a few reasons that have made me question my love for this club, from the sheer ineptitude of buying attackers, namely a striker, to the way the club has ended their various campaigns for the past few seasons. But recently, it's been with how Arteta has been handling interviews after some of these matches, and I'm not gonna lie, it's starting to piss me off a bit. I'm all for a manager backing up their players and trying to instill confidence in their side. Some days you just get unlucky, and it's important to remind the squad that they performed well. In the second leg against PSG, for example, Raya was great. He saved a penalty, and he was doing what he could in goal, all while making an argument for being our best and most consistent player all season. It was just unfortunate that PSG were very clinical and precise with their shooting. However, the squad as a whole over the two legs did not deserve to win, but Arteta seems to think differently, and we're going to look at a couple of his quotes here. One quote said, "The best team lost, in my view, especially after 160 minutes. The PSG bench just told me." I mean, I'm not sure how you can say that you were the better team over two legs if you did not win the tie. Like, I get that there are situations where the better team does in fact lose, whether it was because of a poor refereeing decision or maybe an opposing player having the game of their life, like Celtic beating Barcelona, for example. But over two legs? If something happened in that first match, you should be able to rectify that in the second. But you didn't. This second quote, however, is probably what annoyed me more than the actual loss itself. I don't think there's been a better team in the competition so far. This competition is about the boxes. Normally it's strikers and a goalkeeper, and he was their best player in both games. So there's a lot to unpack here, starting with the very first sentence. I don't think there is a better team in the competition. Again, we lost over two legs. I'm not sure how you can say that we were better when we did not win, but then he goes on to contradict himself with the following sentence. It's about the boxes, normally the strikers and goalkeeper. So theoretically, if we were the best team in the competition, that means that we would have one of, if not the actual best striker and goalkeeper in the competition. Like, that is literally the transitive property here. This is elementary school stuff. The strikers and attackers underperforming by 4 goals across both matches does not make me think that we were the best team. Hell, we don't even have an actual striker up front. Now, as for his claim that Donnarumma was their best player, yes, he was great in both matches. There is no doubt about that. But Arsenal were not clinical with their chances either, which was a stark contrast to the PSG attack. As I said before, I like when a manager supports and backs up his players consistently, and I think that they should do that the majority of the time. But when you say that you're so good and deserve to win after losing time and time and time again, you have to stop and question if you're really as good as you think. And it reminds me of a quote from the newsroom that fits Arsenal pretty well with a couple of adjustments. If Arsenal are so good, how come they lose so goddamn always? Yes, Arsenal is definitely a good team. It's why they pushed Manchester City for a title 2 years in a row, and it's why they managed to make the Champions League semi-final despite having an incomplete squad. But until we show that we can be ruthless, have a better non-whining mentality, and actually win something, then deserving to win means nothing. And you know what would help with winning? Buying some goddamn attackers, man. Since Van Persie left Arsenal, there have been only 2 clear goal scorers for Arsenal, and one was more of a winger than a striker. Alexis Sanchez and Aubameyang. 2 goal scorers in 13 years isn't really good enough for a title contending team. Maybe controversial to say, but you know, hey, that's what you get when you watch this channel. Funny enough, these 2 guys nearly overlapped while at Arsenal, so there was a time where we could consistently rely on at least one of them to score goals. But ever since Aubameyang's form fell off in 2020, we've been in desperate need for someone to step up. Now, Arsenal do have attackers who have the ability to score. I mean, Saka got 14 and 16 goals the last 2 seasons. Martinelli at least had 1 good season, which theoretically means that he can do it again. And the team has scored 88 and 91 goals in the Premier League alone the last 2 years. However, those 2 seasons included a fairly healthy front line. We were still underperforming in terms of XG and big missed chances in those important matches. And then in this season, we are massively underperforming for just goals scored while still underperforming in our XG in crucial moments. I mean, do I need to show the intro again? And the biggest reason why is because Arsenal does not have a pure out and out goal scorer, someone who can just put the ball in the back of the net. 4 seasons in a row, and it is the same story. Not taking the transfer window as seriously as we could for the attack and refusing to buy a striker. It's one thing to focus on defense, and they've obviously done a great job with that. And of course, I don't expect every transfer window to include a world-class forward. But time is running out, and players could be getting antsy to win. The board and Arteta need to take this summer seriously, or else Arteta will be on the hot seat. Now, I won't go as far to say that I'm Arteta out. I obviously understand that injuries played a massive part in how this current season went, but the fragile mentality that's shown in some press conferences, along with the inability and refusal at times to buy attackers, are some major red flags. And those reasons have been causing so much disappointment and anguish amongst Arsenal fans, and it's when you combine them that you start to see the full picture, because for me, it's not just the fact that Arsenal have finished second place for a few seasons in a row, or that they got bounced in all the cup competitions. It's the way that those things have happened. For example, last season, in the 23-24 campaign, Arsenal finished second yet again to Manchester City, but it felt much different than other seasons, including this year. In the last 18 matches, Arsenal won 16, drew the eventual champions, and lost to a top 4 Aston Villa side. 16 wins out of the last 18, and there were no bad losses. Unfortunately, Manchester City didn't lose in any of their last 23 matches while winning 19 of them. Arsenal did nearly everything they needed to do to win the title. It's just that City were perfect. It obviously still sucks that Arsenal finished second, but all you can really do in that moment is just tip your cap and move on. But compare that to some of the other seasons that we've had in recent memory, where we've finished in similar positions, but the feeling at the end is much different because of the way that those seasons ended. It wasn't finishing 5th in the 21-22 campaign that hurt so bad, it was completely imploding and losing out to Tottenham for the 4th spot that made it suck. The following season, it wasn't so much finishing second to Manchester City that hurt, but the fact that we had the title in our hands and completely bottled it. This season, it's not the fact that we didn't properly challenge for the title and ended up in a top 4 battle that hurt, but rather, it was dropping more points from winning positions than the previous 2 seasons combined and ending the season on a whimper yet again. And finally, it's not the fact that we lost in the Champions League semifinals, but rather the fact that we produced over 5 expected goals across both legs, but only scored once, all while knowing that we've needed a pure goal scorer for the past 5 seasons, yet haven't signed one. Again, I'm not saying that not winning the league is totally fine, or that losing a semifinal doesn't mean anything to me, because it obviously does, and again, it obviously still sucks. But continuing to bottle chances year after year while not fixing a glaring problem makes it infinitely worse. The expectation for the summer transfer window is the same as it's been the past few years. Buy a striker, buy some attacking players, and buy a midfielder. If Arsenal don't do that, I can honestly say that it is the most brain-dead club that I have ever seen. And god damn it, I would still support them. Please buy a striker for my mental health. I'm begging you. SofaScore sent me an email saying that they wanted me to help promote them, and they said I could do whatever I wanted. So here's their website. You can look up basically any single football league you could possibly think of. That's how I found out about the Challenge League and Arcadog, by the way. That's I don't know how they got their stats still. You got all the major leagues here as well. You click on the Bundesliga, for example. It tells you what games are going on, what's live, which is nice. There's so many different sports up here. Do you know what bandy is? I don't know what bandy is, but they certainly have it. It's completely free, which is the best part, and you can use either this QR code or the link in the description. I do not care which one. This one's probably easier. Yep, there you go.